topic is strategic dimension of India's foreign policy, security imperatives in a changing global order. And my study would focus on critical analysis of India's security challenges and diplomatic strategies. Basically, I would break my topic to make it easily understandable for you all. So, when I talk about India's foreign policy, it basically means a set of principles which is to be followed by India while interacting with other nations or international organizations. The strategic dimensions focuses on the maritime, economic, military, and soft power dimensions. The security imperatives in my topic would mainly focus on the traditional security threats and the non-traditional or reputational security threats. And all this we are talking about in the changing world forum, in a changing global order, where we saw from independence the rise of China to today's world and the rise of US and the formation of unipolar world for some time, and now we are again witnessing a multipolar world order. So how India's stance on all these situations changes or modifies to match the diplomatic to match its levels of governance or its emergence. So, in total, India's foreign policy must adapt to new global realities while ensuring national security. So, uh, my first slide focuses on the abstract, which I would suggest you carry on reading the same. You read it yourself because I'll elaborate on further PPT. So, introduction. So, my introduction talks about India's foreign policy's evolution. So, when we talk about India's foreign policy, basically what comes to our mind, we focus on the external security threats, external disturbances, but we should also keep in mind the internal tensions, which has major impact in the evolving global order. India has continuously adapted from its previous stance. As C.R. Mohan puts it, most Indians agree that PM Jawaharlal Nehru had defined a unique foreign policy, and hence no new Indian leader could denounce it, as this may lead to political trouble for them. So they go on to improvise the same. Moving on, the theoretical framework of Kautilyan realism and modern diplomacy. So, what are the key areas which I focus on here is what while discussing the Kautilya's Arthashastra, we come across Matsya Nyaya, that is the law of fish, where in anarchic world the bigger fish eats the smaller one. So in a while we take up the positive points for today's for India's modern diplomacy, and we see that the pragmatism which is already mentioned in the Arthashastra, and the strategic autonomy and the building up of alliances are to be followed up by India today too, because um, we saw um, we saw the emergence of India from a philosophical wish guru to a Vishwamitra. Um, where earlier India was more ideological, while it is putting itself as a global leader or a global teacher. Today, India is focusing on a cooperation and uh, uh, turning itself into a Vishwamitra rather than a Vishwaguru. The example can also be stated from the recent fact that in the situation of COVID crisis, India was supplying the vaccines to the nearby countries who couldn't afford and others. Okay, while doing this, it is uh, proclaiming itself as a Vishwamitra. Moving on, I'll discuss the India security challenge in a multipolar world, where I would first focus on traditional security threats and secondly on non-traditional security threats. First, traditional security threats, I have focused upon three key areas, that is border disputes, terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, proliferation. So, first point, the border disputes with nearby nations such as Pakistan and China from the time of independence, is a serious threat to the security of the country. And while moving to terrorism and extremism, the cross-border terrorism poses a serious problem. The rise of uh, Pakistan-based terrorist groups Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed pose a serious problem to India, and there's also radicalization where they are in order to increase their human force. They keep on uh, inculcating this harm in the people of the nation. So, moving on, weapons of mass destruction, proliferation, and nuclear strategy. Um, the weapons of mass destruction um, can be a serious threat for India because if the nearby nations has any such capability which they are having to, and the situation go beyond our hands, then it may be a possibility in the nearby future that they may go on to launch any such weapons or any such nuclear threat to our nation. Moving on to the non-traditional security challenges, the maritime or transboundary water resources. The maritime security, the smuggling of arms, drug trafficking, and all through oceanic routes by non-state actors pose a serious problem. Moreover, the excess of transboundary water resources. So we have the tensions with Pakistan. We also have the tensions with China and all. We also have tensions with Nepal because of the water dispute, the natural dispute, the natural. Resource which is not to be distributed equally. So, moving on, the cyber security threat. The cyber security advancement in AI and all poses a serious problem because there may be cases of data breaches, and there are already cases where the Pakistan has breached on our very uh, important data and all. We also have the reputational security threat where we come across that the Mm, international reputation enhances diplomatic leverage and overall security. Whereas we have situations where, um, um, in the for example, if we can take an example, the farmer protests in our country somehow or the other reflect some of the degrading reputation of the country on a global scale. If the people from other countries see it as a major concern. So, moving on to India's defense landscape challenges and reforms. So, what are the challenges India's defense landscape faces? These are prolonged trials, bureaucratic delays, civil military friction, hierarchical defense procurement. Prolonged trials where the artilleries are kept on for long trials and they are not to be procured by the military, and the bureaucratic delays. The bureaucracy somehow leads to a lot of paperwork, which at some or the other level leads to the delay in the procurement. Civil military friction, the friction between the um, civil personnel as if bureaucrats and the military um, somehow lead to the delay, as if we saw that in India we don't have the position of CDS for a very long time. In 2020 it got introduced, the hierarchical defense procurement system, and the hierarchy